Hi, I'm Kate Brosnan, and I am thrilled to be joined by Suzanne and Bob Wright.
Thank you, Kate.
It's so nice to see you both, the founders of Autism Speaks. We were talking before the camera started rolling that I can hardly believe it's 10 years.
10 years. Isn't that amazing?
It went like this 10 years.
And we're 10 years younger, not 10
Right.
years older.
That's right. At least you look 10 years younger.
I paid her to say that.
You know, I always assume that people know and associate you both with autism and Speaks in the organization that you started. But let's talk about the roots of it. Christian, who's going to be 14.
14 in a few weeks.
And that was the spark. Talk a little bit about that.
It certainly was a spark. It was a day I will never forget, because I think that you know that all the story about how it came to our family, and here Bob was running NBC, and we thought we were pretty media savvy, and to find out that he had autism and something I never knew anything about, and that the rates were just climbing, and nobody was talking about it. And then Bob and I looked at each other one day after meeting so many of the families, and we said, we have to do something. If not us, who?
Right. And I have to say, in that when I first met you both, I knew nothing about autism. I mean, the work that you've done is extraordinary in educating us and giving us, as parents, signs to look for. So that's what this show is all about, is really talking about the work that you've done, where it's come in 10 years, and the work that's going to be continued to be done. And then locally, of course, we have our walk.
We have our walk this Saturday, August 15th. At 8:30 at Jetty's Beach. We're expecting about 1,000 people.
And the big part of that too that I'd love to talk about is that it really stays, a lot of that the funds that are raised stay locally. And our resource center is a lifeline to many families here that struggle with autism, being 30 miles out to sea and the expense of getting on and off island. I know it's a lifesaver.
The resource center is a model for the rest of the country.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later, I know, but I mean, what Kim Horn has done with that, and the way she's brought together all kinds of organizations devoted to people with disabilities, especially children. We'll talk about it. It's something very special that we've done here in Nantucket, and we haven't quite been able to duplicate this other places.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can be a model, because
Yes.
I know the families that rely on the resource center here for even just a night at the movies with their kids. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
And it's not only just for kids with autism, it's now become a resource center for all families with disabilities.
And siblings and family, because...
And moms and dads, I mean, that come and drop their children off, and Kim has 100 events this year that we're doing.
Yeah, so for us locally, this is a really important part of our community.
I wish I could do it in every community.
Well, you'll get there. Listen, considering what you two have done in the last 10 years, I have no doubt that every community will have a resource center with you two at the helm. Partnership with Google, Bob, talk to me about this, because this, I know every time I run into you guys, this is an exciting, this missing.
Well, this missing project is the most significant thing, science and medical science, we've ever undertaken. And it's really, it's just incredible. For me personally, it involves 3 different groups. Autism Speaks, which is a not-for-profit, US-based, but we operate outside the United States as well, so that's part of it, those connections. Secondly, with Canada and the Sick Kids Hospital, and Steve Scherer, we'll see that in a video in a minute. He's a very prominent geneticist, the most prominent person in Canada in that area. He's very well supported by the province of Ontario and the federal government, and Autism Speaks Canada, which itself is a very successful organization. And he is actually leading this project at this time, and they have raised a considerable amount of money in Canada, well into like $25 million for this project.
I'd say that's considerable.
The third element is Google. And Google is handling all of the computational issues that go with whole genome sequencing, which is just trillions of pieces of data. That's what it amounts to. With 10,000, we're doing 10,000 whole genome sequencing of families and siblings with autism. And the amount of data that's involved is so significant. There's really only a few places in the world that can actually do the computational. They're doing it. They're doing it for us, working with us. We're paying for the sequencing for all of these pieces, which is our role in this. And we are opening a scientific portal that will be available to all scientists. It'll probably be September 1st. We're that close.
Wow.
It's been in peer review now for the last 8 weeks. And by peer review, I mean we have 54 scientists around the world that have agreed to review the site for effectiveness.
Okay.
It's hard to get in, hard to get out, that sort of thing. We have 21 institutions that are part of this. And I'd say locally, the Broad Institute would be one of them. Mayo Clinic is another one. Johns Hopkins, Stanford, Yale. We have University of San Francisco, University of California, San Francisco, and San Diego. We have institutions like that and outside the United States as well. So they're all in there. And the reason you need a peer review is because Google's having to make the tools, virtual tools, because your computers aren't going to be strong enough to be able to do this. So you're going to have to come on, and you're going to get virtual tools to go in the direction you want to go. We will have done our job when we get all of these trillions of pieces of data in the cloud, which is we're about halfway there. And then now the scientific community comes in, and this is their opportunity to see material they've never seen, to see whole genome sequencing down to the very base level. That's what we need in autism. We need to be able to say we've examined every possible issue having to do with genetics before we try to do too many other things. And this is going to provide science for the next science portals for the next generation of science and research.
And this is open to the world, which is really quite remarkable. And Stephen was on the short list for the Nobel Prize last year.
Wow.
Who's running the whole project for us.
So these great minds will have access to all this data that could lead to what is the cause?
Well, what it will do is it will start leading to break down. They'll start matching genetic arrays of individual samples. If you go through thousands, and we'll find out they'll start being grouped together.
I see.
We also have phenotyping material, which means we know a lot about the nature of the people that were in there, their ages, what they had, when they were diagnosed, do they talk, do they not talk, are they aggressive, are they not? We have all that data, and that's critical for pharmacology, because they'll want to examine the genetics, but they also work on presentations. Coughing, does it stop?
Right.
That's a phenotype.
Right.
So this is critical, and we match these things up. I think we'll have 1 or 2 or 3 autisms defined by sometime in next year from this work, and it'll go on and on and on.
Yep.
Let's take a look at this video that explains more about it.
The missing project is the most exciting project in all of biology right now. The goal is to sequence the genomes of 10,000 families that have autism spectrum disorder. We've known for many years that genetics plays an important role in autism, and we've been looking at the DNA from families for well over 2 decades now, using incremental advances in technology. And in the last few years, a new technology called whole genome sequencing, which allows us to decode every single letter in the alphabet of the genome, is now available. We think this will be the largest genome sequencing project in the world for any different condition. 10,000 families, that's at least 40,000 DNA samples or so, we think. The data that's starting to come back is exciting. It's telling us things that we didn't know earlier. And we think once we get into the tens of thousands of numbers, it's going to actually really unveil all of those genetic factors that we've been searching for many years.
I think missing represents a revolutionary opportunity to increase understanding, awareness, interventions for individuals with autism spectrum disorder. I think the potential for collaboration is tremendous.
So we're bringing different types of scientists and professionals, health professionals, to look at the data. Physicists who are very good at looking at big data sets. Computational biologists, molecular biologists, geneticists, developmental pediatricians, psychiatrists, you name it. We're going to assemble the teams to really understand this genetic information so we can put it in a form that families can use to benefit their children.
So the honest answer for most families is participating in research today is not likely to turn around and give you immediate benefits, but the potential to benefit your child as well as others in the future is tremendous. The potential for earlier diagnosis and recognize children who would be at risk and provide interventions earlier.
The end product, the product that the community needs to move the entire agenda forward in autism research, is a database that can be utilized in an open science format. Genetics is large DNA science, actually, so it's information science. We put that into the computers, and then we're all working on trying to decode what that information means.
If I was to put one's individual genetic code into a Word document, it would be over 1.5 million pages long. It is a massive proposition to do thousands of genomes and then put them up in a cloud environment to allow researchers to look at that from around the world and study it. And this is why our partnership with Google is absolutely essential. There's really no one out there that has the ability to do this in the way that Google has.
With it putting it in the Google Cloud, you can potentially get access to the 10,000 genome anywhere with internet access, which is something that is quite unbelievable.
This is what they do. I mean, Google is an information science company, and genetics is an information science. In fact, it's the ultimate form of information. Your genome is what is your blueprint for what makes you what you are. And Google's developed ways to handle these large data sets, to search through them, and to look for patterns that perhaps we're going to really benefit from. What I'm excited about is it's the first time that we actually have these massive data sets. I've been in the field now for 25 years, and when I was a graduate student, the experiment I dreamed about we're actually now doing. And it's really incredible to think, now as a species, we've come to the point where we can actually decode our own genomes. I think I couldn't even imagine that even 10 years ago. And not only are we doing it in one individual, we're doing it in 10,000 families. So this is groundbreaking. It's going to change everything we know about autism and also everything we know about ourselves.
This seems like a big game changer, Bob, with the information, gathering it and then having access. We were talking a little bit while the video was playing, and you were saying that it's not a typical thing that it's open to access. That's very unusual.
Well, it's really open. I mean, you're not going to be paying any big fees. You can take all the information you gather and do what you want with it. And hopefully that will encourage research. And hopefully the people that have been funding researchers around the world will see this as a very solid opportunity to fund them, and they can benefit in whatever manner is realistic to benefit by what they get out of this. And there won't be any strings attached, and nothing like this that I'm aware of has been done. And with something as important as this. This is based on the cloud platform of Google, which is extraordinary. Google maintains 2 copies of the World Wide Web to 1,000th of a second at all times.
And little Autism Speaks is right up there with them all.
Keeping good company.
Yes.
But also the collaboration to get like Canada, the United States, Autism Speaks, Google. I mean, it seems like collaborations when you can work with people, and this is what I think you guys are incredible at.
I'll give you another one. David Glazier is the head of this project for Google. He is from Framingham, Massachusetts.
Local boy.
Yes.
We don't know if he actually graduated from high school because he went to MIT. I think he got out of MIT in a couple of 3 years. He's a physicist.
He's a physicist, yeah.
And he's just wonderful. And this is his project, and he's working on it. I'd also point out that over the last number of years, we provided grants, $13 million worth of grants to medical institutions here in the state of Massachusetts, and we will continue to do that. And hopefully Massachusetts will be very fast adapters of this portal, and they'll get right into it and start working.
Start working and getting and finding those sequences that really make a difference.
And sharing the information.
And sharing the information. Which I think is so important.
We are going to get some answers.
We also have a brain consortium that's very important. It's not something people talk about in the regular conversation, but understanding the brains of people that have had autism, and we have a very large organizations doing that. And there's one of the key centers is Harvard Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, is one of the key centers for this. We have the Icahn Schools, Mount Sinai, University of California Mind Institute in Sacramento, and University of Texas Southwestern Medical School in Dallas are the locations. We broke it down so no location we wouldn't lose we wouldn't lose everything if we had a fire or something
Okay.
like that. But that's a big deal too. We also do a lot of environmental work because that's half of it. Autism is probably 50% genetic and 50% environmental, which means you don't know.
Right.
Okay.
Because
there's so much discussion around this. What is, okay, so.
Well, you could say the same thing for cancer, you can say the same thing for diabetes, you can say juvenile diabetes, you can say the same thing for cystic fibrosis, you can say the same thing for almost every, we don't know is the answer.
Mental health is a huge frontier.
Right.
Huge, and it's still a little bit of a taboo.
Right.
It's one of the few things in this country that now we've accepted so much, but mental health is something that we, not only Autism Speaks, but all of the people across the board have to really be serious about finding some of the answers of mental health.
That's right. I think it travels into all sectors.
We need treatment, though. We need services and treatment while we're doing the very difficult work of going through the genetics and into the environmental. And we have an organization called Delcia, which is our for-profit wing, if you will, trying to actually invest money in attractive technologies or treatments that come to our attention that wouldn't get off the ground but for us.
Okay.
So it's like a startup venture capital.
Right.
And we've got several investments out there, and over time I think that'll prove to be very helpful. We also had
with the idea that will fund back to other things, if anything.
Well, if it's successful, we'll get some money that will enable us to do more.
Right.
It's a circular thing. And the other thing is we had a Delcia event in Boston just this March, and it attracted people from all over the country. We had 4 of them, different places, and this was Boston. These people are investors. And they're developers, they're inventors, or they're scientists, and trying to match them up is what we've been doing. And that's something that's only in our 3rd year, and that's going to have a lot of future. So.
It's amazing. In 10 years, and we're going to do a little bit of looking back in this show, but really it seems like in talking this year, there's a lot of hopeful, concrete things that you guys have really put the energy to that hopefully will show some big results. So we're going to be back with more here with Bob and Suzanne Wright talking about Autism Speaks.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Speaks. Perfect. Good. Try.
Careful, careful. Wow, new app.
What is that?
It's Colby's.
iPad!
Boy!
It's yours!
We're here today to tell you that you have won an iPad 4 from Autism Speaks.
iPad. Wow, cool. Wow, cool.
iPad. That's right. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Do you love your new iPad?
Yes.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
Please and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Autism Speak. Thank you, Autism Speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Autism Speak.
Welcome back to a special show with Bob and Suzanne Wright, where we're talking about Autism Speaks in its 10th year. I don't know where that went. I just don't know where it went. And thinking about it from the first time that we sat to interview and where we are today, awareness. And I have to be honest, I knew nothing about autism until I met both of you on the set down at the Rope Walk.
Yes.
And what's happened now, and I was saying to you both off camera, I see it everywhere. I feel like parents have a resource. I see PSAs, I go to your website, which has a wonderful, as a parent, what are the signs?
Yep.
What you've accomplished in...
this little puzzle piece is an iconic...
It is. It's like a shamrock.
Iconic logo.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk to me, and I'd love to talk to you about this first, Suzanne, the power of awareness. Where do we start? When something like this happened, what was the first move?
The first move was to get the Ad Council, which has never taken on a disease in its 75-year history. But when I went there to present why this was so important, they took us on.
Okay.
And that awareness raised our awareness, 50% in the first few years?
Yeah, yes.
About 50%
enormous.
raised it.
If we were Procter & Gamble, it would be like an absolute home run for product.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it was really extraordinary, and we're still part of their campaign. I think we're coming up on 8 years now of them putting awareness. We pay for the distribution of all of the product that we put out there.
Okay.
And then they take it and put the creative process on a BBDO. Andrew Robinson's on our board, and he's in charge of the creative process. So it's extraordinary. I mean, it's amazing.
But knowing where to go. I mean, that's what we always talk about, that, Christian really.
I had nowhere to go.
You had nowhere to go.
I had nowhere to go.
But you knew how to open doors, and you also, if people haven't noticed, you're not easy to say no to.
Well, you can say no, but you have to have a very good reason.
That's right. So I don't even know if a good reason would work. I would never say no to Bob and Suzanne Wright, ever.
Well, we took that awareness and we jumped it off on there, and I started up Lighted Up Blue around the world, started with the Empire State Building. And it is amazing because of the UN, and how we got that, our World Day. Every country had to say yes. So now in September, I have a meeting of the World Focus of first spouses around the world that come for the opening of the UN. And with that, I ask everybody that's there to help me in their countries join Lighted Up Blue. This year, we had an 86% increase over last year. 6% increase. And now it'll be close to 19,000 buildings around the world. I mean, from the Christ the Redeemer to the pyramids this year, the International Space Station. I mean, capitals all over the world. Where do you see the Lighted Up Blue? It's really extraordinary.
Let's take a look at the Lighted Up Blue video.
It is an honor to be here on World Autism Awareness Day, a day that every country in this body voted for. In London and Dublin, the sun is setting and the landmarks are beginning to glow a beautiful blue. And as each time zone falls into night, the massive blue arms of our Lighted Up Blue campaign begins its hug of the 70 million children, teens, and adults with autism. Big and small, these all matter. They unify us across borders and cultures, languages, and social status.
Today is World Autism Awareness Day. Today is Autism Awareness Day. We are wearing blue to show support for autism awareness.
Which is why we're all wearing blue tonight, to raise awareness for it.
Well, Autism Speaks is really encouraging everyone to light it up blue on Facebook today.
Tonight, more than 15,000 buildings around the world are lighting it up blue for World Autism Awareness Day.
7 continents, over 130 countries. So we really look to empower families and people with autism with information and tools and resources that can help them today and into the future.
Now, got friends out here, Autism Speaks, what's happening?
We're here to support World Autism Awareness Day, and we're lighting the Plaza Blue as well as monuments all over the world.
That's terrific.
More than 35,000 events are taking place, from lighting ceremonies to awareness days at schools and bake sales, limited only by creativity.
Long Beach staff and families at Miller Children's Hospital signed an awareness wall.
County commissioners swapped out the normally yellow light bulbs for blue ones this morning.
Sporting KC players helped kick off Autism Awareness Month. They flipped a switch which turned the KC Autism Training Center blue.
Department of Sanitation is putting Autism Awareness Month posters on 2,400 vehicles. That's all of their vehicles.
It's going to be appreciated by the people that your trucks go by. And they're going to say, my gosh, how did that happen? We're not isolated.
The statue of Christ the Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro was one of the many illuminated blue today.
Pope Francis called for worldwide support and compassion for our autism community. His words inspired us to reach out to all faiths, and the response has been overwhelming.
Tonight, the Empire State Building will light it up blue by shining its world-famous tower lights.
Being able to do things like this are amazing. Come here and light the Empire State Building up blue is just a tremendous feat.
Right now, closing the bell, our old boss Bob Wright, co-founder of Autism Speaks.
The most important thing about all this is that we have over 9,000 of those, which are grassroots. Those are homes, schools, and communities.
It defines me as a mother of two kids in the spectrum of autism. And for these kids, I would like the fountain to be an annual thing.
We've had a great partnership with Autism Speaks for a number of years, and it's really meant a lot to our employees, to our players, and to our team.
Noise can be overwhelming, so when the Red Bulls host Autism Awareness Night, they'll try to control the sights, sounds.
The Rangers had their Autism Awareness game last night. What an experience.
Doing the honors this evening in support of Autism Awareness Night is a young fan who is the inspiration for one of the top walk teams for the Baltimore Walk Now for Autism Speaks.
Now, Home Depot, they have stocked their shelves with these lips of blue light bulbs.
We get excited because first and foremost, we know this is something that needs attention. And so our hope is by partnering, we can make more people aware. The other thing we really believe in is if we have more people joining together to help raise some dollars, those dollars are invested and get a great return in terms of the impact they have.
The concert is hosted by Kristen and Stephen Stills of Crosby, Stills & Nash, of course. This is the third year for the annual event, all to raise awareness and money for the cause.
I don't know that there's anything more identifiable at this point than this.
The puzzle piece, exactly.
Right?
Right. Autism Speaks. And please listen.
We are talking about the health and the well-being of 70 million of our children. Their futures matter for all of our world.
We have active research projects in 14 countries, including several first-in-the-country prevalence studies. We invite all of you to join us to support our efforts at national, regional, and international levels.
Science and scientific discoveries belong to the world. Autism and the families affected by it span the world. It will take all of our country's efforts to begin to universally understand the genetic underpinnings of autism. Through such a process of researching autism together, I suspect we may stumble upon an understanding of something even more profound. That is the essence of what it means to be human.
At the end of the day, we are all mothers and fathers, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. And we all want bright, healthy futures for all of our children. If we stay in this place of unconditional love, next year we will have 70 million lights on all 7 continents, one for each boy and girl, man and women with autism. I love this quote. Sometimes it is the people no one imagines anything of that do the things no one can imagine. Thank you all so much for all you are doing in all of your countries.
How impressive is that to see the whole world lit up blue? Amazing.
It is amazing. It just goes to show you when you have children involved around the globe, we will do anything for our families.
Right.
And that is the one thing that's keeping it all together, whether it's blue, whether it's the church.
Well,
it all means so much.
You say at one point that it knows no boundaries. So autism hasn't selected a country or a faith. And that leads me to your visit, both of you going to the Vatican with Pope Francis, who personally I just think is changing the world as well.
He is.
He really is. Tell me how did that happen? Do you just call him up and say, hello? This is Bob and Suzanne, you don't know me, but you will?
Well, we went to a few cardinals, and I asked them, Bob and I are Catholic, if they could help me, because this was something that I really felt with the leadership of the Pope, because he is for people on the margins, and we do have a global community with autism. So they agreed, and they had a 3-day conference at the Vatican. The Pope lives in more or less a dormitory right next to the meeting hall where we were, and St. Peter's is right there. So we had over 4,000 people from around the world that were represented. You had to have a child with autism, you were a caretaker, the nuns were there that took care of children with autism. And he came
And that was the whole audience?
That was the entire audience. You had to be somehow connected to autism. And it was truly amazing. He came in and touched all the families he could with autistic children. And as Bob often says, we were concerned that something wouldn't, because these kids sometimes just go out to, and they were just so calmed by the Holy Father.
He's got a gift.
You could feel it, Bob?
Absolutely. He wades in. He doesn't express any reservations. So, and that's people with autism pick up on that in a minute.
They know.
And they know, and he goes up and hugs people, and he's there, and he looks them in the eye. He's not the least bit put off by whatever disability they have. It's irrelevant. He doesn't see it. He just sees another person that's in need.
Yes,
and he wades into he was there for hours. Just
hours. He was with that.
Couldn't get out.
Wonderful.
And with that leadership that he provided us, I've now asked the churches, the mosques, the temples around the world to light it up blue, because as you saw in that tape, autism doesn't care what religion you are.
Right.
And this was the first year, and we've got over 100 buildings, churches, mosques, the largest Catholic church in the world, the Temple Emmanuel in the city, 2 mosques in Africa. So my outreach this year is a faith initiative that I think that every faith in the world should join us with the Light It Up Blue. And we're going to have pew cards here in Nantucket in all the churches talking about our autism awareness. So it is truly now not only a global movement, it is a faith movement.
A spiritual movement.
Yes.
And families need that in the places where they go.
Well, he did something that was very important. He said to the world, and especially to his Hispanic community, which is all Latin America, he said, nobody's at fault here. And these are children of God, and you have to help those families. If they're your families, you have to help them, your relatives. If your neighbors or friends, they need your help. They need your help to give that child the best opportunity. And he made it very clear, because keeping them alone, locking them up, and then shunning them is what he was getting at. And he said, you cannot do that.
Well, for this next piece, my favorite line is your line. It says, love them. So let's take a look at the bright time at the Vatican.
It is truly an honor of my lifetime to be here at the Vatican and to have the struggles of our grandson, Christian, and the 70 million children like him recognized by the Holy Father.
Just amazing. There were probably about 4,000 people there, all connected with autism, with their families, their children, their adults, wheelchairs in many cases. It was just powerful.
Dedicata a un tema complesso per l'autismo.
But the moms and dads were so thankful, as were the grandparents, cousins, aunts, and uncles, for this amazing time of blessing from the Pope. Autism doesn't care what faith you are. It cuts across everything.
We pray for all of those across the world who are afflicted by autism and for their families.
People keep asking, should the church do? Well, tell everybody to love these children. Tell everybody to love these families, to help these families in any way you can.
So let us all walk next to the 70 million children and teens and adults with autism around the world every day. Let the most pressing childhood developmental disorder of this century be what finally brings all of us and all of our faiths together. And let us not forget that mere words will not help those families. Volunteerism begins and ends with our hearts. So please go home and carry that candle and light up your countries. Thank you so much, and God bless you. We feel so blessed. Our little Autism Speaks is truly touching the world.
What an amazing experience that must have been. And as Bob, you can feel it when you're with him, and you can almost sense it through this video. It was really emotional to watch that.
It was really an emotional time to be there. It was extraordinary.
This one nun in the front just reaching out to him. Oh, it's beautiful, just beautiful.
Our mass that we had at St. Peter's, it was just absolute. All faiths, it didn't matter if you were Catholic or a Muslim. It didn't matter. Everybody just showed up.
Really
it was
incredible, incredible.
Very spiritual.
Having Pope Francis on your side is a very good thing. That's a good partner to be with.
He speaks for the world.
I know.
He speaks for the world. He's changing the world, and so is my Christian.
Yes.
Changing the world together.
Totally. It's really remarkable. We're going to be back with more to learn more about Autism Speaks here on Nantucket. You're going to meet some of the stars from the program here. So stay tuned.
Maybe he's really focused.
Hey, Michael. Michael. Maybe he likes spinning the wheels.
Maybe he just loves trucks.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Preoccupation with objects is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Welcome back to our special Autism Speaks show, and I'm very happy to be joined by Kim Horn and Jessica Douglas.
Thank you.
And this is the part of our show where we really talk about the impact that Autism Speaks has had on our community. Because 10 years ago, it wasn't there.
No.
And there was a lack of awareness, and there was a lack of resources, and we're 30 miles out to sea. In comes Kim Horn, the first executive director of the Resource Center there. Tell me about the early days, and where did you even begin, Kim?
To be honest, we give our adult daughter credit. She has developmental delays. She lives in a group home. And we just started thinking, what would have helped our family if we had some of these events that our other children could go to, the respite opportunities to give parents a much-deserved break, the educational forums so parents don't have to go off island to improve the quality of their lives. We do everything right here. And that's really how we developed it.
And that's probably why you're so good at it, because you understand from a parent's point of view what it feels like, because it can be isolating.
Oh, very.
You know, and siblings and what that, so you brought your own heartache in many ways into a positive thing that could work in the community, which is wonderful. You've been, I'm a big fan of Kim Horn.
Thank you.
You know, I am, because I think the work that you do is so important and so needed on our island. And that is the benefit from Autism Speaks and coming.
Absolutely.
We're very lucky that Bob and Suzanne decided that this was going to be a place they called home.
Yes.
Because I'm glad they didn't pick the vineyard.
Yeah, me too.
So Jessica, tell me a little bit about your story, because you're a mom.
I am.
Yes.
I have a 6-year-old daughter, Ella, and a 3-year-old son, Malcolm. And at Malcolm's 2-year checkup, they asked if he was saying 50 words, and I said, no, maybe 7. So they said, oh, okay, that's a delay. So we were referred to early intervention. After about 6 months of early intervention, they saw some red flags, the shared attention, the lack of pointing, some repetitive behaviors like turning his train upside down and spinning the wheels. So they referred us up to Boston Children's. It took 6 months to get an eval, like it was a wait list of 6 months. And then we went up, 4 hours of testing with the one-way, two-way mirror with a team of doctors behind, and then they gave us the diagnosis. And from there I was like, I really didn't know what to do, where to go. I thought for the first time, oh my God, we're going to sell the house, we're going to move, because what could there possibly be 30 miles out to sea? Like, do we have to fly therapists over? What are we going to do? Because none of this was on my radar before.
Sure, of course.
So I got the 100 Days kit and was referred to Kim, and came, sat in her office on the floor with Malcolm because he was playing and into everything, and got all this information, all these resources, where I need to go, what I need to do, the things, all the fun things you have as well. Just I wasn't aware that that was anywhere. We had all this stuff, so I'm incredibly grateful, and we've taken advantage of almost everything you've put on. The pizza making at Oath Craft was wonderful. We go to the respites. I love that the siblings are included because Ella loves to do all the arts and crafts, the bouncy house, you know.
And it doesn't. So you're not so alone. You can also talk to other parents. I would admit.
That's one thing I will have to say. Some of my friends faded out after the diagnosis, which was a little hard.
Sure.
But I've met some amazing other moms who can relate, and there's no judgment if your kid's having a hard time.
They understand.
Yeah. The first thing I went to was the Halloween mixer.
Right.
At the middle school cafeteria, and was instantly like open arms. Okay, you're new, and
A community.
Yes. Yeah.
A real community.
Yes.
And I was talking to Bob. It's also not just for children with autism,
Right.
which is a good thing because
Yes.
Rachel was a good guide for you
Right.
there. So it opens up to anybody in our community that has a child with developmental
Yes,
problems.
Absolutely.
And
any special need.
Any special
Right.
need.
It can be a physical need. We have cerebral palsy. Any special need.
And as your job as the executive director, do you ever do outreach? Does someone call and say, oh, I have a friend who maybe could use the how does that work?
With the HIPAA laws, it's very private.
Okay.
But what I do is have the friend give my contact information to her friend and cross my fingers and hope that she picks up the phone.
Because Jessica knows that when you're picking up the phone, all of a sudden you have this community that supports you, your children. Because I mean, I can't imagine without the support of friends.
Right. Yeah.
And some people, when they get a diagnosis, like you say, if they drop out, you've got to replace this with people understand and don't make you feel isolated by it. I remember.
Yeah, you need support.
Yes.
Right. Bob and Suzanne talking about on one of the shows, like a child acting out, right? And then everybody's standing there, like, why can't your child behave?
Right.
Are you a bad parent?
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of ignorance.
Totally. And the siblings, it brings a lot onto them. You know, they want to go to a family movie. And I've had parents say, well, wait for Netflix because I can't take the stares and the loud, obnoxious whispers.
Right.
And the sibling is just wanting to be invisible.
Right.
You know, it's very hard on the whole family.
The whole family. And the Resource Center is, we were talking also earlier about coming here for the summer.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
I'm sure you get an increase in participation.
Definitely.
Because here you have a resource here. You can come to a beautiful place like Nantucket and you can bring your family on vacation because there's something available to do as a family.
Yes. I've had moms practically cry on the phone because we have a babysitter list.
Yes.
You mean we can go out to dinner?
Wow. The things that you take for granted.
Well, just the summer flyers, 2 pages long, with all the pirate cruise and the ice cream cruise and all the things they have to offer. There's a lot.
And year round.
Yes.
And
Yes.
year round, which is, you know, February gets long.
Yes.
Right? And I'm
Yes.
sure that you've experienced that. But also, you know, having other people and people that have the information to give it to you. Is this what's happening here? What can I do as a parent?
Right.
Because early intervention makes a big difference.
Yes, absolutely. It's so important. And there's nothing better for me than to hear parents talking and sharing advice with one another, but also laughing.
Right.
Right? Because only we can get some of the humor.
Yes.
Right.
That other people might question.
Right. But what a wonderful, wonderful, and this is what this walk here is all about. I mean, that's what raises the funds for
it makes it possible.
It makes it possible. Yeah, we're really lucky. We're really lucky.
And I have to credit our community partners. First of all, we work closely with the Nantucket Star and Family Support Services so that we're all offering different programs at different times. So parents really get choices.
Okay.
And it's not all on one agency. And we also do things like we'll do a parent social, and Nantucket Star will provide the free childcare. So we're working together, you know, to meet more needs.
Which is that collaboration.
Right.
It takes a community.
Yeah, and the businesses here are so generous. They offer basically free make-your-own pizzas for all of these kids.
That was wonderful.
Right? And they had a blast. They had little chef's hats on, and they got to make their own pizzas. You know, how fun.
Right.
And it was through the Resource Center that I found out about STAR, and Malcolm won an adaptive scholarship for skiing, and we got to ski at Wachusett Mountain.
Yep.
And we've done the swimming lessons as well with them.
Right.
Wow.
So we do surfing and sailing, they do swimming and kayaking down at jetties, so we try to balance each other.
Balance it out and then offer more.
Right.
Offer more.
More choices.
Win-win for everybody.
Yes.
And collaborate of what the needs are.
Right.
Right. Well, I'm so glad the Resource Center is here, Kim, and your work has been incredible. It's been incredible.
Well,
your energy is amazing.
Love the families, and honestly, I just love it. I love making these things happen.
Well, you do a great job. It's so nice to meet you, Jessica.
Thank you
I'm
so
sure
much.
you're in good hands with Kim.
Yes.
We'll be back with more here on the Autism Speak Show.
Let's clap for us.
My name is Andrea Lee Greenberg. I walk for Autism Speaks because my son Tyler is the single most important person in my life. Walk Now for Autism Speaks raises awareness every time a city puts on a walk. It is a terrific way to come together as a community, to reach out to one another, to get the message out that these children and these adults are incredible human beings.
To find a walk near you, visit walknowforautismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to the special Autism Speak Show, and Bob and Suzanne have joined again. In this segment, we're talking about awareness and what it takes to get the word out and to change the way insurance companies work, laws work. And Bob, I know this is where you come in and have really worked hard in order to get certain states to take on this the initiative that you've put out. Talk to me a little bit about it. How do you change a state's mind of what an insurance company is?
Well,
this is
the first thing you do is you have to have awareness.
Okay.
Awareness is the reason we went into this originally. If people don't understand what you're talking about, if they've not been made aware of it, if they're not willing to be pushed by other people, then you're really having trouble. So awareness has been, that's what we've used. It'll never stop.
Okay.
It's always part of it. In terms of what you get out of that, it helps the advocacy. I mean, we've been dealing with insurance for states now for several years. We have 44 states with insurance. It does not cover everybody because there are governmental exceptions, but basically covers a lot of people in each
But
state.
before we got involved, they were not covering our children with autism.
Zero.
They
Zero.
gave them no. Could
Zero.
you imagine the insurance you had would not enable you to have insurance for autism? It was so unfair and so discrimination.
And bankrupt family.
Bankrupt families, second mortgages, 80% divorce. We had to end that all. We took every state on.
And we got 6 states alone this year, this year and the last year. So it's ongoing. And we did something this year that took for a long time, 8 years, to get the ABLE Act passed.
8 years.
And tell me what this act is,
The
Bob.
ABLE Act is a tax-free savings account for a person with disabilities that can be done by a parent or a relative or a friend, and you can put up to $14,000 a month into this, and it's tax-free, and that person can receive that on an ongoing basis. There's going to be somebody in there that's going to administer it. It can be for disability. A disabled person could be any time because the disabilities has to be there before they're 26 years old. It's not for, you know.
But they were able to have a college.
It's a
college fund. So the kids going to college were able to have this fund.
I see.
Now the child with the disability, if you can imagine, was not able to be part of this kind of a fund. So it took us 8 years to get this done.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the discrimination against our disabled children? That's over.
I'll say one on insurance. Massachusetts was one of our early
Yes.
adopters. It is one of the very best insurance programs we have in the country.
Makes me proud to have the state on my driver's license. Well, this is the second time you've said this,
And
that
we have-
Massachusetts was an early
Well, I'm going to
adopter.
give you one more. Because ABLE has to be approved by individual states. The IRS runs it because the IRS is the tax agency that's not going to get taxed on this.
Okay.
And the states approve it. And sometimes it can take a long time to do this. It took years for 529s to be approved. we've gotten 29 states approved in less than a year, and Massachusetts was one of the first. So there's another Massachusetts victory. And lastly, we have the Combating Autism Act, which we started in 2006. So it was under George Bush. He was the first signer. Then President Obama was the second. We had to do it, and we had to redo it a third time because they're 5-year increments.
Okay.
So we're now on our third one of those. And
that's $3 billion.
$3.2 billion over the combined number of years. We have 2.5 years left on this one, and we'll be into another one soon.
But when we went to get the Combating Autism bill, it was one half of 1%.
Right.
Is what we were getting. Nothing, basically.
Okay, nothing.
Yeah, no research.
No research.
And the numbers keep rising.
Yeah.
So it's an
1 in 42
epidemic.
boys now. It's 1 in 68 kids.
The NIH has approximately $700,000 a day available to them to do autism research. We do not control what they do.
Okay.
And that's always a sensitive subject.
Yes, very sensitive.
But we hope this now, the Missing Project, which I talked about earlier, is going to have a dynamic effect on researchers. Researchers are now going to get in there. They're going to need funding to develop their ideas and use that material. And we hope that the NIH will be one of the leaders in this.
In distributing the funds.
We've already given them the money to do it. Now they have to do it. So it'll be very exciting to see if we can marry them up with these. Now, you can only give money to scientists in the United States. That's the NIH. Okay, and that's going to be the majority anyway. But they're going to come knocking at the door with their projects and they're going to be exciting and never seen before, that sort of a thing.
But our Missing Project is opened up to the world.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
It is.
Okay.
But
the NIH will
only fund
the U.S. stuff. So we need everybody. We need people to get involved. That's what's happened here. We've got involved people at the local level, at the county level, the state level. That's how these things get done. Suzanne and I do not do these things. It has to get done at the local level. And we constantly tell people, you have real power now.
Yep.
You have to use it. You have to have a media partner. You have to have political partners in your town or state. And you have to have corporate supporters. And they all come together. If you get one, you get two. If you get two, you get the third.
Well, how often do you find that until it knocks on your door, you can kind of put it, well, this is, this isn't my, and then you find a legislator or a sponsor who has had the same experience that you've had with Christian? Is that, then you see it firsthand. Have you found that, Suzanne?
I have found it. It's amazing because if you don't know somebody with autism, you are, every day that goes by, you're finding out somebody has autism.
Totally.
Because of the awareness that we've done.
Absolutely.
And it really is amazing because before this, people were silent about it. They didn't want to talk about it. But the awareness
there was a
campaign,
stigma.
It was a stigma. We have brought it out of the closet, and now people are very comfortable, but it is amazing. I'll go anywhere with my pin on, and people say, oh, I know about Autism Speaks. Right. I have a cousin that has autism. It is just extraordinary.
Right.
The awareness. The college campuses when we went there. You ask about autism in the college campuses?
Yes. They're the next generation. That's what I tell them. You guys have got to face this. This is right at your doorstep.
Right.
So we have Autism Speaks You all across the country with all the universities that are lighting up blue because these young kids understand now the magnitude that this impact has on them because they know.
When they ask the question to a group of college kids in a classroom situation, and they ask the question, how many of you are aware of autism? Almost all the hands go up. It's
That's incredible.
That would have never happened.
Well, I even think of Jessica coming and talking and saying she didn't know we had a resource center here.
No.
I'm like, I feel like I'm so close to it, but how do we, this community obviously.
And the mother that just moved here from Arizona.
Yeah, because of the resource center.
Yeah.
So, I think it's one of those things that, the world is so busy that you don't stop and think until it hits you that someone. Nantucket, we're lucky in that our community is so interwoven that we know each other.
Right.
But you can see how that awareness and that campaign to get that word out there is still so important.
And we also we try to do a lot for treatment. We try to do, we have grants for camps and swimming and all kinds of things, different grants. We can't do everybody. We have lots of it.
Right.
But one of the things we've done with these toolkits, which
she brought that right up, Bob.
Yes.
Yeah. We have 40 of them. Yeah. And now they have been downloaded 400,000 downloads of all these things, with the one that she talked about, the 100-day kit being the biggest.
Amazing.
150,000 downloads.
And that, to give that to one parent who's just gotten that diagnosis, where you guys were like, where do we even go?
That was one of the first things we wanted to get done.
I remember that,
100-day
Suzanne.
kit was so. What do you do in the first 100 days?
Because you're lost.
Now
Totally
we have the latest
lost.
one is the transitional toolkit. It tries to, it tells you what we know about what's going to happen to a child who turns 19 or 20 or 21, depending on what state you're in, where they lose all their benefits. And what goes on, what can you expect? What are the options? And that's called the transition toolkit. It's only been out for a short amount of time. We've had 30,000 downloads on that one.
Because here if you're in the system, you've done the work for the insurance company to recognize it, but then, I mean, that is another scary transition.
500,000 in the next 10 years.
Is that right,
Will
Suzanne?
be aging out.
50,000 a year.
50,000 a year.
And with aging parents.
Aging parents.
Yes.
You know,
every parent wants to outlive the child. It's not possible.
Yeah.
So we have to find, that's going to take, there's no magic wand here. That's going to take a lot of work. We have to distinguish what's different about people with autism in terms of their housing and their care versus other people that maybe are more functional.
Right.
And so
We'll
that's
do
going to get done. That's on the
We'll do
that's
it.
on the list.
I have no doubt.
We will do it.
That will be, when we sit here
need
next
jobs,
year.
We need homes. We're going to go across the country.
Jobs are
huge. We ask
Right.
companies and communities to help us.
Well, that film that I saw last year, I think was at the
Sounding
film
the
festival.
alarm.
Car wash guy with
Yes.
I thought that
Wasn't
was
that fantastic?
incredible.
It's a great film.
It's a great film.
Sounding
it's a
the
great,
alarm.
Right,
Sounding
and
the
it gave me hope.
Yeah.
It made me that people are good, and if we really look at it and make people realize that this is an issue, great things can come from
He
that.
says it in there, but almost 50%, or we don't really have a dead, 50% of people that are autism that are 25 or younger have never had a job, a paying job.
And
50.
80% live with their families.
84%
with their moms
live
and
with their
dads.
families.
That's
That we know.
unbelievable.
Right.
Anyway.
We are going to be meeting with some of your partners from Don Allen Ford
Yes.
in our next segment. These guys are great, and I know how good they've been to you both and
They
to Autism
certainly have
Speaks.
been.
So stay tuned. We're going to be back with more with the folks from Don Allen Ford.
Right before he turned 2, we got that diagnosis, and they were hesitant. You know, they say, we don't really want to use that word.
Andrew. As a parent, it was kind of hard to see if anything was wrong with your child, but to hear a word that you never knew what it was, that was kind of scary. Andrew is now 15, so doesn't have much language, don't know if he's ever going to be able to work.
Yeah, you start thinking about, we're not going to live forever.
Sort of make wishes or hopes, you know, prayers along the way, that if he could just find a place to live that's safe.
I've been contemplating what happens when the school bus stops coming almost from the day it arrived. We're entering a time of a perfect storm with the rise in the number of children with autism becoming adults with autism, dwindling government resources, and so few options.
For the next 10 years, there are going to be 500,000 young adults that become adults that are going to need to find a place to live. Today, over 70% of all adults live at home with their parents, and half of all adults need some daily support.
Living on my own has really been a good experience. I make sure I take care of my responsibilities around the apartment, cleaning, cooking for myself.
Independent living means doing your laundry, have goal settings, public transportation, a lot of good stuff.
That autism is like a puzzle, and it can be very confusing to a lot of people.
We don't know anything about autism. And I just want autism to be cured.
Our home, sweet home.
There's no real difference between this next phase of what's needed that society needs to step up and figure out how to provide a solution from what we've all faced through the earlier days of early intervention and school-age programs.
When society invests in the education of children with autism and then pulls the plug at age 21 or 22, we see regression in all kinds of areas.
There's still a lot of people thinking it's not, they want to put their hands over their face and say, it's not coming, it's not coming. It's like, believe me, it's here. And the programs that get out ahead of it, you know, Autism Speaks, who's really trying to move this agenda.
Autism Speaks came about, it was like a whole new world. I was able to look and see what was going on, what I needed to do, what other families were doing.
One of the things that Autism Speaks has tried to help policymakers understand is that this is a gigantic financial burden.
You know, I sit on the Autism Speaks Housing Committee, and I think that there's been some really terrific work done just trying to understand what those needs are. There's a notion that individuals with autism, you know, can't socialize or they don't want to be part of a social grouping, and it's just not true.
A lot of good evidence that shows the more that people are integrated into the community, the more that they are able to be employed in normal, typical settings, the better the outcome for the individual, the better the outcome for society and the taxpayer.
By investing in these children when they're young, we save society a fortune over the course of a lifetime, and that it is much cheaper to serve them on a minimal basis than it is to serve them in custodial care.
Without support, it's going to be a dire situation. And in fact, I think it'll create a cost for society that's far greater than the cost will be if we actually work together with a solid plan.
And if they really just take a look at our kids and see the potential, I think they would change their minds.
Give us a chance and we can change the world.
My hope for autistic people is to be independent.
Please help solve my puzzle that I'm having.
Please be respectful for people with autism.
Please help.
When you know that I was always on your side.
All we want is to be given a chance. So give us that and we'll make you proud.
We try to do as much as we can locally with Autism Speaks here, and the Resource Center is obviously a prime thing. With Kim has done a great job with that. But I want to have two strong supporters here, and Eric Evans and Bill Tornovich, the owners of Don Allen Ford, and they have been very, very helpful to us, and they have been promoting the annual walk now for quite a few years by having the cruise take place at Don Allen Ford. And I want you guys to talk about it for a second because it's a wonderful event, and it happens the night before, which means it's this Friday night at, what is the start time, at 6 o'clock? Or
5:30.
5:30 at Don Allen Ford. But go ahead, tell a little bit about it because it's great.
You got it? So I remember, what was it, 4 years ago, Billy and I were trying to figure out what to do and get people to Don Allen in the summertime and create an event. And ironically, Bob walked in looking for something to do with his car, and I said, there we go, Bill, we're going to do it for Autism Speaks. And this is our fifth year or fourth year that we've done it, and it's gotten bigger and bigger every year. It's Friday at 5:30 to 7:30, August 14th, right? And we have antique cars, we have burgers and dogs. The fire department's going to be there, antique cars, bouncy house. We got Steve Tuna and the Offshore Blues Band going to be there. It's a great family event, and it's probably one of the only free events in the summer.
I will be there with my 45-year-old Mercedes, and along with a lot of other guys with some cars that's just terrific. And you'll have a lot of motorcycles too.
We're hoping to have the motorcycle group again, and they've already asked about it months ago, so they've been planning on it as well. And everybody with an antique car, they're like, when is that night again? And I said, it's always the Friday before the walk, so it's the 14th this year.
And you have hot dogs and hamburgers and food, and it's
a good time.
It's a great time, it really is, and it's just at the early part of the evening, and everybody's excited, and you got a lot of vehicles around, and it's a big turnout. People really enjoy it. It's again, people coming together, and the next morning is obviously the 8:30 is the walk, so that's a big deal. Well, thank you very much for what you do. I look forward to it. It's a great time. It'll be this coming week, and guys, I want to thank you.
Well,
thank you
welcome.
both for what you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's a pleasure to help out.
Oh, wonderful, great, thank you.
That was painless. I'm glad you did all the talking.
When he was little, he
loved water, and he used to swim in my bathtub.
He loves the water. He wanted to go in the water, but he didn't know how to swim. My fear is that I won't be there all the time.
Just the peace of mind saying, okay, say if there's an accident, my child falls in the water, you know, he has a better chance of keeping himself up. And swim lessons are probably one of the most important things that parents want to give their children these days. For that exact reason, safety is utmost priority.
Water is such a great equalizer. A lot of children on the spectrum find water an incredible balance for them.
When he comes out of class, he's so calm because of the water and how it affects him.
You also see it in the kids, not only in their smiles, in their energy, and also in the skills. I've seen a lot of children on the spectrum who are phenomenal swimmers.
I see the progress, I see the growth, I see him participating really well. He's starting to learn to listen.
We're very grateful that Autism Speaks awarded us this grant. A lot of our participants, because it's financial based, they would never have this opportunity.
As a parent, I am grateful to Autism Speaks for granting scholarship money for the Bronx House for children with special needs.
I know the parents are grateful. I know we're incredibly blessed to have this and have this as an opportunity, as a stepping stone.
Welcome back to our Autism Speak show. A lot happening here on this set today. We've got dump trucks people are talking about. And tell me about the World Health Organization, Bob, and what that means to Autism Speaks.
Well, we've tried very hard, and a few years ago we were successful to get the World Health Organization, WHO, which is paid for by the United Nations. It's headquartered in Switzerland. And they are the arbiter of medical science and treatment for the rest of the world.
Okay.
And they are extremely effective. They would like to have billions more, but they do everywhere. And we partner with them on a global autism public health initiative, which we help organize around the world. There are 70 countries now involved, where we're trying to do what we do in the United States, but to build up awareness, and then the public health organization will be in those countries, and they will pick up some of the issue, and a lot of it has to do with parental training.
Okay.
And this is a big issue, and we funded some grants to do this, so that parents in other countries where they don't have the resources that we have in the United States can become confident that they can positively influence their child or somebody else's child with autism, and they connect with public health in that process, a clinic or something like that. And this is a big step forward, as opposed to just being locked out of the whole treatment.
And we have all our toolkits that we give
yes,
them
all
as
of
well.
our toolkits are
translated into languages.
And Carlos Slim Foundation just translated all of them in for Spanish for us to give to all the Spanish-speaking countries.
That's a lot, by the way.
Because no matter where you are, if you're a parent of a child with autism, you need that. You need to have that information.
Definitely have to have it, and that's one of the most incredible things that can happen around the world, is that we're all talking about the same thing and how to help each other.
Well, I had the pleasure of seeing you guys in action at the UN, and Suzanne, with all the lead women of the world,
Women of the world are helping me.
Powerful group of women.
Well, there's 70 million people in the world that are affected by autism. Now you times that by 20 caretakers, you've got 1,400,000,000 people that are affected directly by autism. So this is something that's very serious.
And one thing to look forward to here from a standpoint is in November, China is hosting a annual major meeting of scientists that work on autism, and it's a big group. I mean, it's hundreds of people, and they're doing it. It's going to be in Shanghai, and they're going to be speaking about autism in China, and this is very important, because we haven't had that from them, and anything they do, you know, is on scales that are way beyond what other people do when you've got 1.3 billion people.
And the First Lady of China, actually, she's the ambassador for autism in China, and she's been in touch with us, hoping to see her at the UN and help her in any way we can.
Well, I just want to thank you both, because the idea that each time that I meet with you, that another hurdle has been jumped, another country has been reached, another parent has been helped, and another child's been helped. And that's really because of the energy and devotion and love that you guys have put into it. It's really, I hope you sit down sometime and take a look back. We're going to do that with a short film to end the show, but it's really incredible. And it goes to prove that if you have passion about something and you have the ability to make a difference,
you can make change happen.
You can make change happen. You're a real role model for me personally, and I know for the world. So
Well,
thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Yeah, it's been
Thank
really
you very
wonderful to
much.
sit with you
Thank you.
again. Let's take a look at 10 years of Autism Speaks and the work that's been accomplished.
We took them to be evaluated, and there was one session where I stopped the lady before she left and I said, "Can you tell me what's going on with my son? I want to know what's going on with my boy." And she said, "You know, Mr. Mojica, I would hate to think it, but I believe your son has autism." And then I thanked her and she left my home, and the world changed. It changed dramatically.
Today, the Centers for Disease Control reported it's a lot more widespread than we thought.
Autism is a far bigger health concern than we ever knew.
And then when I had her assessed, it turned out to be global developmental delays. And I just said, what are global developmental delays? And they said that's delays in every area.
So I knew nothing, really nothing. It was going on the internet and being scared half to death.
It was amazing to me with the amount of children that are affected by autism. People just didn't know about it. And I remembered Bob Wright called him and said, "Bob, I want to meet with you about something." And I didn't know Suzanne at that time. When I met her, oh my God.
I knew what my daughter was going through. How could not somebody speak up for these people?
And with the financial backing from Bernie Marcus, the Wrights founded a new organization. Its first priority was bringing immediate national attention to autism.
And I sat with Bob in his office and we talked about what we should do, and he said, "Well, Phil, you're the advertising guy. Why don't you try to do something in the marketing side of the business?"
We came back and looked at a lot of different names and everything. We worked it down and ended up with
Autism Speaks. It's time to listen.
Listen.
And as soon as I saw the puzzle piece, I said, that's it. And I just saw it as something that that people, children could understand. A puzzle piece is a puzzle piece. And there's always something missing. Where do you put the next piece of the puzzle?
Autism Speaks created partnerships with already established autism organizations which had fought hard to make deep inroads at the grassroots level, but were struggling to have a larger impact.
We did not have a unified front. In fact, when we were in Washington, we found that many congressmen actually knew about autism or were not willing to do anything about it because we were not speaking with a single voice.
Autism Speaks eventually merged with 3 of the larger organizations: Cure Autism Now, the National Alliance for Autism Research, and the Autism Coalition for Research and Education.
Everyone was extremely excited about the prospects of actually joining hands. The idea that we had capital and we had the will to go out and now accomplish things that had been on everyone's agenda for a while was really exciting.
We wanted to make it bulletproof. We wanted to make sure that we could operate in every state of the country.
What's the goal of Autism Speaks?
Our issue initially is to make people aware of this and to be the spokespersons for mothers all over this country who basically have no opportunity to kind of get out the word on this, and also to talk to legislatures.
We looked at our finances and we knew that Kyle and I together, with us both working, we wouldn't be able to afford this type of therapy for Samuel, but this ABA therapy could be the key that unlocked that unlocked our little boy.
And I remember for me, the moment was when we went to Washington. And I asked if these senators and congressmen knew about autism. But the urgency in our Congress, in our Senate, in the government is not there.
In the House amendment, the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table and that any statement relating to the bill be placed in the record at this point. In the record.
Without objection.
Mr. President, we just passed the Combating Autism Bill.
Autism Speaks fought hard to pass legislation for thousands of families whose insurance providers were not covering the therapy their children needed.
And just to see those people band together and passionately go to each office and talk to each person and help them to realize that these are real children that they would be impacting by passing that bill.
We want to welcome everyone here to this celebration, the White House celebration of the passage of the Stephen Beck Jr. ABLE Act.
the most important thing we've done is we've given families respect. And that comes through awareness. And I think that's really important. It's not about a cure so much, it's about treatments. And you can only do that when we understand the causes.
The long-term goal of the project is to figure out all of the different genetic factors that are involved in autism. I have to say, though, the greatest impact that Autism Speaks has had is through the awareness they've generated in the public. And this directly impacts the families, the policymakers, and indirectly comes back to influence the amount of funding we have for our research, which is critical to provide the answers to the families.
They got us on TV, on radio, celebrities. They were in the paper all the time, and they had the public service ads that were just wonderful.
One of the most defining aspects of Autism Speaks grassroots outreach has been its nearly 100 walks a year.
I was walking around with Adam and holding his hand and pointing to everything, saying, that's where the balloons are, Adam. That's where the starting gate is, Adam. These are the families. These are all the t-shirts. We're so excited. We're so excited. And then he looked right into my eyes. And I was like stunned. And he leaned over and he kissed me on the cheek. And I remember that, you know, the feeling of like he knew what we were doing. You know, he understood that all these people here were fighting for him. And that's what Autism Speaks does. You know, it fights for people.
We still have a lot of work to do. We really need to make sure that children get diagnosed as young as possible. And if we could get children diagnosed at the age of 18 months, there's an awful lot that can be done to make that person as capable as they could possibly be as an adult.
By 25 years old, less than half of people on the spectrum have ever had a job. We have a lot to try to change. It's providing a better life.
At the end of the day, it's about making a better life for Christian, Adam, and all of the families around the world impacted by autism. This is their story, and it's their struggles, progress, and triumphs that will continue to define Autism Speaks for the next 10 years and beyond.
So Annie didn't learn to talk till she was 10, really, or start trying to talk till she was 10, which was amazing because they said if she didn't talk by the time she was 5, she probably would not talk. And so that's why I just always tell families to hold out hope.
Just keep going.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you want to sing our song for them?
Yeah.
So we have a song that we've been singing since Annie was about 1. Just like
me,
they long to
be
close to you.
In 10 years, we've gotten $3 billion from the federal government to drive NIH research. We've funded millions of dollars in family service programs around the country to help kids enjoy summer camp programs and get access to the sorts of supports that they need. And we've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in our own research. We are right here, and we are going to drive these smaller victories home over the next year and the year after that until everybody who's living with autism can benefit from the work that we've been doing.
I'm so proud of my guy, Christian. He works so hard. He's come so far. You know, I've thought about like what it would be like to lose my speech. I can't even imagine. These kids work so hard. You know, they just inspire us.
It's amazing that this little boy is changing the world for so many millions of people. And he is the light that I think of every day. He's an exceptional little boy.
That's okay. Yeah, we're just talking about the journey. Yeah. Yeah, and we made it through. Hey, look. See, look. Yeah. We're talking about how you're my hero and what you taught me. Okay? I'm very proud of you. Okay? Give me a hug. I love you too. Okay? My hope for Adam's future is that he'd be happy. That's what I've always wanted for him. I just always wanted Adam to be a happy, joyous boy. All right. I think it's the incredible part of this journey is, someone once told me in the very beginning, they said, you know, what you have to do, Jesse, is you have to take Adam out of his world into your world. And I always say that it was the opposite. You know, Adam took me out of my world, you know, out of my selfishness, out of my just own, you know, own thinking, and brought me into a world that of giving, of caring, of supporting, and I'll always be very grateful to him for doing that. There's a smile, see, you got it back.
Sometimes it is the people no one imagines anything of that do the things no one can imagine.